Okay, so good morning. This is part 2 on the third hindrance, traditionally called in Old English sloth and torpor, and now being called drowsiness and lethargy. And so we're going to be giving a talk from Ajahn Thiradhammo's book on that this morning. And one of the things we'll be covering is antidotes, or like how to get out of the drowsiness or the lethargy. And one of the methods is called the anusities, the recollections. And there's traditionally 6 recollections. It's recollection of the Buddha, of the Dhamma, of the Sangha, of our morality, of our generosity, and of the deities. And so I have never really had a talk on recollecting the deities. But I came across one by Ajahn Thiradhammo, and this is one of his sort of regular meditation methods. So as for something very unusual, different, but a little skill you can put in your toolbox, we're going to start with a guided meditation on the deities. And the idea, I believe, is, so these are people who've passed away from the human realm and have been reborn in a heavenly realm. And in Buddhism, there's many different levels of heavenly realms. And so the deities, called devas or angels, they have different qualities. And so we're going to have some of those qualities too, unless all we're doing is running around and raping and murdering and stealing and whatever. We're going to have the qualities that cause us to be reborn in a heavenly realm. And so that can be inspiring to know that if we don't become fully awakened and get off the cycle of samsara, that we're going to end up in one of these realms. So anyway, here is Ajahn Thiradhammo to lead you through a guided meditation.
Today, I want to do something a little different. By request, I'm going to do a guided meditation, something I've done before, which is the contemplation of devas and relating it to the chakra system. I'll just say a few words of introduction before getting into it. This is kind of the idea of as above, so below, that our being on one scale recapitulates the cosmos on another scale. And we can find within ourselves all the levels and psychic energies of the 7 heavens. So we'll just jump right in. Begin just settling yourself, sitting comfortably, spine upright so the energy is flowing. We'll begin at the base, at the root, Muladhara, the root chakra, the base of the spine. This is a 4-petaled red lotus. And here is the dwelling place of the Chatu Maharajaka devas, the devas of the 4 great kings, the guardians, the protectors, guarding the gateway, keeping out the demonic forces. Under the rulership of the 4 great kings are all the lesser devas of that realm, as well as all the beings below devas of the earth, the nagas, supanas, the humans, the four kings stand at their post halfway up the mountain, Sinaru, with swords in hand, guarding and protecting. Here is the place of all the earth energy. Rising our consciousness to the next chakra, Sadhasana, just above the pubic region. This is a six-petaled orange lotus. Six petals, six senses. This is the place of sensuality, of beauty, of enjoyment. And it's the seat of the Tavatimsa Devas, who dwell on the summit of Mount Sinaru, in a beautiful, glorious garden city. Beautiful trees, flowers, dancers, musicians. Presided over by Saka, the king of the gods, who sits on his rose-colored throne and surveys all the realms below. Raising the energy and the consciousness higher, go to the navel or solar plexus chakra, Manipura, the jewel city, which is a 10-petaled yellow lotus. Here is the place of peace, of the oceanic bliss. Here is the seat of the Yama Devas. Those beings who live in peace and are free from strife, are beyond the reach of the asuras and all the lower demonic forces. They live in peace and harmony. Enjoy a pleasant abiding in their mansions and their gardens. Without even a hint of conflict or strife. They're beyond all that. going yet higher to the center of the chest, the heart chakra. Anahata, 12-petaled green lotus. Twelve petals, 12 nidana of the dependent origination. This is the place, the seat of wisdom and compassion in Tusita heaven, where dwells the Buddha to be in waiting, the potential of a Buddha. Metya, the Buddha of compassion. The Devas here have a special connection for that reason with the Dhamma. And they live in compassion. And they experience the joy of living close to the Bodhisattva. From here is radiated compassion for all sentient beings. Now we can raise our consciousness to the throat chakra, in Visuddha, the pure place, 16-petal blue lotus. 16 petals are said to represent the 16 vowels of the Sanskrit language. This is the place of expression, of creation, of creativity, of art, of literature, of speech. This is the seat of the Nimanarati Devas, those who delight in creation. The Devas of this level have such a refined level of consciousness that reality itself is their plaything. They can create anything they like with their minds, and they dwell in a constant state of creative play. They change color and shape at will. They create any dwellings and gardens and objects that they can imagine. Then upwards to the third eye chakra, Ajna chakra, in the center of the forehead. 2 lotus petals, violet in color. This is the place of knowledge, of wisdom, of the higher mind, of vision. Here is the dwelling of the highest of the sensual devas, the Vasiwati, Harinimata devas, those who delight in the creation of others. They are served by the lower devas. And they rule over the whole. They oversee the whole. They are great splendor and power. One stage higher yet, beyond the body, above the head, in space above the head, is the crown chakra, Sahasrara, the 1,000-petal lotus of many colors, glorious, bright, the connection to cosmic levels, cosmic consciousness, that which is beyond sensuality, beyond the ego, beyond the personal limitations. Here is the dwelling of Brahma, Mahabrahma, and the lesser Brahmas in the first Brahma world. These are great cosmic beings of great majesty, gloriously luminous, beyond attachment to the senses, without gender, without sickness, without physical hunger. Dwelling for an aeon in glorious samadhi. Patiloma, aniloma, forward and backwards, up and down, would now descend through the levels, pouring the energy. See the crown chakra as a bowl filled with light, cosmic light. Let it pour down. The chakras are open as vessels to receive and transmit that light. Into the third eye chakra. The violet rays of the lotus shine forth gloriously as a reflection of the cosmic light and pour down into the throat chakra, blue, luminous, radiant blue light. And down to the heart chakra, green light, 12th petal lotus, illuminated, glowing gloriously as the cosmic light pours down to the open vessels of the chakras. And down to the navel chakra, Manipura, the jewel city, yellow light. Peace and bliss. And down to Sadasana, which translates as the seat of the self. Six-petaled, orange-colored, the seat of beauty, enjoyment. And the light passes through and illuminates the root chakra, red, four-petaled, the foundation, the base. Gather into the root chakra all the energies of the earth and nature, and now feel them flowing upwards. Great glorious power of being flowing through the second chakra at Svadhisthana, the frequency rising from red to orange, then from orange to yellow at the navel as the energy flows upwards. Take it to the heart, the green, glowing. And feel the energy from above flowing down to the heart, and the energy below flowing up, intertwining and emitting glorious radiance from the 12-petal green lotus, filling the whole universe with compassion. May all beings be well and happy. May they live in joy. May they live in peace. May they be free from distress. The energy, the cosmic luminous energy flowing down from the crown, the chthonic energy of the earth and nature flowing up, and the energy of compassion, loving kindness flowing outwards.
When I post this video, I will add in a link that for a talk that Ajahn Thiradhammo gives on the devas and the various heavenly realms, as well as the link for this guided meditation. So the image that the Buddha gives for this lethargy and drowsiness, which is known as tina middha in Pali, is of one trying to see their reflection in a pond that's covered with algae and water plants. So you really can't see clearly. So that's what it's doing to our meditation practice or our ability to see reality. So lethargy and drowsiness has both a physical and a mental component, and you can have both, or one of them can predominate. If it's predominant in the body, then you can just feel very tired and low energy. And if it's predominant in the mind, you could feel foggy or in a dreamlike state. I really appreciated reading Ajahn Thiradhammo's book, because he brought out some things that I hadn't ever thought of before or heard about. And so one of them was this a very interesting, subtle form of lethargy that can actually feel like, you may interpret this as doing very well in your meditation practice, but it actually can be a subtle form of lethargy. And he calls it the tranquility trap. So he said some people, they'll have quite an extensive sitting practice, and then they adopt a very simple, tranquil lifestyle. And so because they have a very tranquil lifestyle, their body settles down, then their mind settles down. But the settling down of the mind is not due to the development of samatha, the stillness. It's just due to the lack of stimulation. And so in this case, when it's due just to a lack of stimulation and not to real samatha or like calming, then there's the mind is lacking in clarity and energy. And then because you're doing just quite a lot of sitting, there's the chance that your body's going to break down due to lack of exercise. And said, Ajahn Thiradhammo said that this happened to him. He went through a period of time where he was meditating 16 hours a day. And the only exercise he had was very slow walking meditation. And he said after doing this for 3 months, his health declined, and then his mind flipped and became very anxious. So that was interesting. I had never sort of heard of that before. Okay, so now going back to tina middha, or lethargy and drowsiness in general, there's several sort of causes for this. The first one he talks about is discontent. And he said if we're not feeling content, with our meditation practice or life, then we're not very inclined to put energy into it. So if this is arising, then we really need to investigate what the discontent is about. The next one is weariness, laziness. And he said this is often just a temporary cause, like maybe you're not getting enough sleep, or you're working too hard or something. So he said it's not a good time when you're feeling that to try and meditate. He said better to do something a little more active, like walking. But if it's persistent, then you need to look into a cause. And I know this really happened to me. I think it was about 3 years into my retirement. I was just, I should have been feeling good because I wasn't working anymore. I didn't have the stress of work, but I was just so tired. And I remember I took myself on a camping trip, and then I specifically didn't make arrangements to visit any relatives in the area. I was on Vancouver Island. And so I slept as much as my body wanted to sleep, and then just be walking on the beach, relaxing. And after 2 weeks, I was just as tired and weary as at the beginning, and, so it probably had something to do with my low kidney energy, my kidney failure. And I went on herbs. I went to see a Chinese medicine person and went on herbs, and Chinese medicine can sort of treat things on an energetic level. Western medicine, we have to have it show up in the blood or structurally to be able to really address it. And that really helped. So sometimes there's maybe a physical cause that we need to look into. Another reason for drowsiness and lethargy is just feeling really sluggish after meals. So maybe we're eating too much, or it's hot out, or maybe we're being too sedentary, or maybe we're eating hard to digest foods, or we're just feeling mentally disappointed, disinterested, lacking inspiration. Another cause of drowsiness and lethargy is lack of motivation from not finding joy in our meditation practice. Like, joy is a very important part of our meditation. And often when we start out in our meditation practice, we're having more dramatic results because we're coming from like a totally untrained mind. Can be super stimulated. And then as we learn how to calm and focus, then we get a much more dramatic effect in, peacefulness. And so that sort of keeps us going there because we're pretty excited and joyful about that. But then after that, the changes become more subtle because we've done the big dramatic changes, and now we're working on the subtle ones. And so that might cause us to, because we're not having the big dramatic changes anymore, we might lose our inspiration. Ajahn Thiradhammo said that he went through 2 periods of this. One was after 3 years as a monk, and one was after 9 years. So another cause might be that we've come into meditation to deal with a specific problem. And I know I've seen many people over the years come to our group because they've gotten a cancer diagnosis. And then as soon as they sort of come through that and they're going to sort of given a clean bill of health, and they stop coming, there's no other motivation. They didn't have any other motivation for coming to learn meditation. It was just the fear of the health issue. And then once that seems settled, then they weren't really interested or motivated again anymore. Or you might come in expecting certain things to happen. Maybe you think if you meditate, you can levitate, and after meditating for a while, you're not levitating. You might feel, to heck with this, it's not working. Or you just may have some really fixed ideas of, what or when things are going to happen, and then it's not happening, and so you'll lose your inspiration. Or you can go into what Ajahn Thiradhammo calls a spiritual drought. You become calm in meditation, but it becomes sort of like a lifeless routine with no energy in it. And then you just feel very lethargic. So what are our treatments, our antidotes when lethargy and drowsiness arise? So it's arousing the 3 energizing factors. Like, we have 7 factors of awakening, and 3 of them are energizing. So that's investigation, piti, joy, and energy. So we need to arouse these 3 factors. So with investigation, instead of having yourself be just the experiencer of, say, the lethargy. What you want to do is sort of stand back and become the knower of it. Like look into, like, when did this start? What seemed to be the causes, or what was happening at the time of this lethargy arising? Then it's important not to have a fixed goal for what's going to happen in our practice. Instead, just have this fluid goal of just taking an interest in the process of whatever's happening in the moment. Because investigation is really exploring the body, mind to discover the truth of reality, the truth of how the way things are. Let's see, I'll just read a paragraph here from Ajahn's book. One of the practical ways to develop investigation is through generating exploratory interest in spiritual practice. It is very beneficial to approach meditation practice with an attitude of exploring body and mind, rather than having some preconceived plan of what spiritual practice should be like. Like, for instance, sitting down and saying, I'll just get rid of the 5 hindrances, develop the 7 factors of awakening, and bingo, I'll realize stream entry. Spiritual practice never lives up to our self-imposed expectations. And holding those expectations usually results in disappointment, discouragement, and loss of energy. However, if we can turn our disappointment into taking interest in what processes we are going through, we can generate another source of energy. We can break through the old stifling, numbing habits with an investigative inquiry. Hey, what's going on here? Meditative investigation is a tool for exploring body and mind in order to discover the truth of the way things are. The next arousing sort of awakening factor is energy. And what the Buddha means by energy is the energy or the effort that we put into the 4 right efforts. So the first one is arousing energy to prevent unwholesome qualities from arising. The next is, once they've arisen, to put in the effort to abandon them. And the next is to give energy to cause the awakening factors to arise. And then once they've arisen, put in the effort or the energy to maintain them or cause them to increase. So it's like putting in some energy and then, putting in some effort, and then the energy comes from that. Because you've probably all had the experience. I know I feel like this, like, you may be feeling really low on energy and you're supposed to do something, and it's just like trying to initiate, like get going is really hard. But once you just like make that push and you start doing it, it's just kind of like the energy then flows from that. It's just that, like it's that getting going kind of thing. Piti, joy. So this can arise either from inspiration or from the stilling of the mind. It happens automatically when we calm or still the mind. So inspiration, this can come from those 6 recollections, and that's why I played the Ajahn Thiradhammo's tape on the deities, the recollection of the deities, because this is one way that we can be inspired. As I mentioned, the 6 recollections are Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, morality, generosity, and then the deities. So the Buddha, if we think about the Buddha, he was a human being just like us. He wasn't some kind of a god that's unreachable. He was a human being. He went through the same struggles as us. I know when I do the recollection of the Buddha, I just feel such gratitude, because I thought, he's the one that went through those 6 years of austerities, of because at the time they thought you had to really torture the body to, to have some kind of spiritual progress. And he figured it out. He didn't have to do that. He remembered peacefully sitting under the rose apple tree and going into John estate. So I feel such gratitude that he went through all that suffering, and we don't have to repeat that. He gave us the easy, well, more pleasant way to realize spiritual awakening. The Dhamma, these are all the teachings, and I think all of us, if we persist in the practice, it's because we've tried things out and we've gotten benefits. So you just bring to mind all these benefits that you've received, from putting the Dhamma into practice. The Sangha, that's all the monastics, the monastics who are teaching us, bringing us through. I know I just feel so inspired living with Ahimsa. She has such integrity, it's just beautiful, being in the same space with her. It's just lovely. One of the things that I didn't bring them up here, the two little books that Ajahn Thiradhammo likes is reading the Therigattas and the Therigattas. And these are two little thin volumes. We have them, they're not in our lending library, they're in our Pali Canon one. You have to sit here and read them. You can't take them out. But you can just go online to Sutta Central and look them up there. They're in the, is it the Khuddaka Nikaya? It's sort of the Khuddaka Nikaya is the collection of all these little tiny books, small books. And they're sort of like poems of all the arahants at the time of the Buddha. So these were people like you and I who just struggled with their practice, didn't seem to be going anywhere, weren't getting results, and then it happened. Because you're putting in the condition, you're putting in the conditions, but we can't really see how close are we to the end goal. All we could do is put in the conditions. And then one day we awaken. And so this can be very inspiring, reading those poems of the early arahants, fully awakened beings who went through terrible struggles, just like us. So that's part of the Sangha. Morality is just looking at your own goodness, just by following the moral precepts, you're doing such good in the world because you're not causing harm to people, with your behavior or your speech, and when we're really good at it, even with our thoughts. The last frontier, the hardest one. But you can just, arouse joy, just thinking about that, just how helpful you're being just by being a moral person. And then the next recollection is your generosity. I know that's one of Ajahn Brahm's favorite meditations to help generate joy in his practices, is to just bring to mind generous things you've done. And then the last one, the deities, just going over the deities, looking at the qualities that we have that are similar to the qualities of the deities. And as I mentioned, at least in my spiritual life, it's not been something I've heard teachers talk about. So that's why I wanted to play that guided meditation for you. Another way to arouse piti is to cultivate a joyful attitude towards meditation, finding ways to make it enjoyable. And Ajahn Thiradhammo says, important not to force yourself to sit by the clock if it means that the last 15 minutes of your sit are just like misery, thinking, when's the clock going to ring? When's the clock, when's the alarm going to go off? He said, if that's happening, don't do it. I really like Sagyal Rinpoche's method. He sort of wrote a sort of more modern version of the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, and it's in our library. But he just suggested, don't have a clock. I mean, you have to have an alarm if you've got a meeting or, you have to go to, or, you have your time limited in your meditation. But if you're not time limited, he said, don't set an alarm. Just sit until you get this urge that, I'm done. I want to end. And then he said, sit with that feeling, sort of do the holding technique with that feeling until it sort of dissipates, and then continue sitting. And you do that 3 times. And the third time, like, you sit with it until it dissipates, but then you get up and end your meditation. And I remember the first time I tried that, I was working at the time. And so I had a 40-minute sit in the morning before I went to work. So this must have been on a weekend, I guess. But anyway, I sat for an hour and a half with no problem. Like, it was quite amazing, because I'd never sat that long before. 40 minutes was sort of my max. And using his method, I easily, because there's no fear in it. There's not like, oh, I got to keep, I have to sit this long. It'll be horrible, whatever. It's just like, oh, once it comes up 3 times, I just end. And so there's, it gives you that relaxed feeling, and then you can enjoy your meditation, and you can surprise yourself and sit longer than you think you can. Another way to arouse energy, whatever, is to develop a sense of urgency, thinking about the inevitability of aging, sickness, and death. How important it is to practice now, not put it off. Like, a truck could hit you, could leave this meeting right now and get run over by a truck. So bring in a bit of a sense of urgency. But again, don't be too forceful about trying to, push, too much effort or energy. I mean, it's all about the middle way. If you try and push things too much, you're just going to burn out. And remember that bliss and meditation, it comes from letting go. So where we need most of our energy is to get ourselves to the cushion to sit down and practice. And after that, we're just practicing contentment and letting go. Ajahn Thiradhammo reports the Buddha as saying that to develop the higher mind, one needs to alternate between stillness, exertion, and equanimity. Have a balance there between those 3 factors. And absolutely don't rely on willpower. This comes from our ego, a delusion that we eventually want to see through in our practice. And as we age, we start to lose it. I mean, I had tons of willpower. I think I lived on willpower. And it's like, with my age, it's totally gone now. So anyway, and Ajahn Brahm's always talking about using wisdom power instead of willpower. Yeah. And then there's the Buddha's advice to Moggallana. And so last week we listened to the talk by Ajahn Nisabo, and he reviewed these. So I'll just quickly list them again. So first, if you start getting drowsy or lethargic with whatever your meditation object is, he said, change your meditation object. It maybe you're with the breath and it's just too calming. You need something more energizing right now. So change your meditation object. Second suggestion was to reflect on the Dhamma. Reflect on the teachings that you've heard. The third is to recite the Dhamma. And so an easy way to do that is if you learn a chant, learn a couple of chants, and then just recite those in your head. Or if you're alone, you could chant them out loud. Then there's the thing of pulling on your ears and rubbing your limbs. And Ajahn Thiradhammo says he just gently massages his fingers. He said you can do that very quietly if you're in a group setting. And, we've got 6 energy channels that end in our fingers, so that helps energize. If none of that's working, get up, splash water on your face. If it's nighttime, look up at the stars to get some light. Do some stretches. That doesn't work. You can just develop the perception of light, like just in your mentally, or just open your eyes and let in some light from a candle or a light or whatever. That doesn't work, do walking meditation, and if nothing works, have a nap. And if it's not bedtime, then the research in ultradian rhythms, like that's the 90 to 120 minute cycle that sort of is superimposed over the circadian rhythm. The low point is, is about a 20-minute period. So if you just have a 20-minute nap, you'll just wake up when your energy is naturally coming up to the next increase. But if you nap longer, you might nap to the next downward thing, and then you just feel horrible when you wake up. So just a 20-minute nap is good. If you're sleepy after eating, then maybe moderate your eating or do some walking meditation or house cleaning. And it's interesting, our little community here at the monastery made a decision to change the cleaning time from morning till right after lunch. So right with Ajahn Thiradhammo's suggestions, what works best. Now, Ajahn Thiradhammo says that if you feel like you're at a stalemate in your practice, it may actually be a good sign. Because as I mentioned, when we first start meditating, we have very dramatic results. Like we might be calming our crazy brain, which was a 10 out of 10, down to a 2. But now if you're going from 2 to 1 or 2 to 2 to 1.9 or 1.8, it's a very subtle change. So it just may mean that you're doing well in your practice, and now you just have to sort of change your gauge from the big dramatic things to looking for the subtle changes. Ajahn Thiradhammo says that the self likes habit, and so changing our routine can shake things up maybe and shift some blocked energy. Is it Ajahn Brahm who talks about when you brush your teeth, don't always brush them the same way. Start in a different part of your mouth brushing your teeth.
Different hand. Different hand.
Or use your different hand. He suggests notice how you're feeling at the beginning of a meditation practice. Maybe you need to walk instead of sit, or maybe you need to have it's always good to have a few different meditation objects in your handbag, and maybe you need to pull out a different one than the usual one. If you have a lot of trouble with your mind doing a lot of thinking when you're trying to do your sitting meditation, and then of course if you're doing a lot of thinking, usually you've got the second arrow right away, like you're stabbing yourself, feeling bad about doing a lot of thinking. So you've got the lot of thinking disturbing you, plus you're negatively judging yourself for doing all that thinking. So again, he's saying, instead of just being embroiled in it, stand back and watch the thinking. And for me, that works instantly, because really your brain can't be doing both. So if you're doing the watching, the thinking stops. At least you're not fueling the thinking. Or he said, just become aware of the sensations in your body, doing a body scan if you're doing a lot of thinking. And the ultimate resource to deal with lethargy and drowsiness is wisdom. Looking at this feeling of lethargy and drowsiness with friendliness, welcoming it in, investigating why it's arising, how is your energy being depleted, how to revitalize it. Okay, so those are Ajahn Thiradhammo's words of wisdom on lethargy and drowsiness. So we've got time for discussion.
I'm just wanting to share that I was just had to think about this, that I'm exactly at that point where, when you first come, you have all these big dramatic changes, and now I sit with nothing's happening. What am I doing next? And I know from my own, what I do at work, I also see that in my patients where you get the first big results, and then later on it's more like maintenance, the really tiny things, or the things that have already been with you for a long time that take so much longer to chip away at.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I just wanted to confirm what you were saying.
Yeah, it's kind of reassuring to know that. Yeah. Thank you.
Could Sarah hear that?
Could you hear that okay, Sarah?
Yes, I heard well.
Great. Yay, Sarah.
I would just like to add that I really like that list of what to do when meditation is flagging, because I guess I read somewhere, oh, follow your breath, and I thought, okay, that's the best way, that's the way I should do it, and if I fail at that, then I'm failing. And now I've got this list of 10 other things to do this, do that, whatever, which is very encouraging. And I just remember a number of probably months ago now, when perhaps you said, think of meditating as going on your beach holiday. And so it's like something joyous to look forward to, because I really resonated with that statement that the hardest part is starting. I said, that's okay, but my to-do list is sometimes too long and then I put it off. So just beach holiday.
Yeah, that's from Ajahn Brahm again. He says your effort needs to be to get your bum on the cushion. After that, you can just let go and be on the beach.
Yeah, and I like to change the phrase from I have to meditate to I get to meditate. That really helps me. It's like it's not as something that I have to do. It's something I get to do. And I lucky I've got a friend that's just gone totally off the scale for dementia. And I'm like, oh, man, like it could happen anytime. And then you wouldn't get to meditate. I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
If you couldn't, anyway. Yeah. So it's a privilege to be able to come to our cushions. For me to keep that in mind, and then that brings up the gratitude, and then it brings up the teachers in my life, and then it brings up the path. So it's sort of the snowball that keeps me inspired to. Yeah, I get to meditate. Great. When can I get up? Because I'll soon get to meditate. Not quite, but it's an aspiration.
You meditate first thing in the morning?
Because I cannot. I know myself. After at night, forget it, and even in the afternoon, nope. So it's just morning. Yeah.
Is that before you do anything?
No, because we do the exercise.
Do your exercises first.
So out of bed, exercise, stimulus, and energy arises. Energy. and then it's a cup of coffee first. You gotta know yourself, right? Yeah. You too, Corey?
And I find if I don't listen to like too much news or I start thinking about things I have to do, that helps not. So I'll just come into my meditation.
Yeah.
Those are trying not to.
Yeah. Sometimes I find if I do have a lot of the stuff to do, just write it down. Like, okay, today, da 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 da. And then once I write it, it's like, it doesn't have as much energy. It's like on the paper. So then I can let it go and just focus on the practice.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm doing the list in my head, so let's get the list on paper.
Done.
Yeah. It's
One
like,
part done.
yeah, part of the thing is writing it down and then it's halfway there.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I came this morning with a lot of sloppy work. And my company, I'm not in my 20s when we used to hang out, I'm totally worn out. And I dislike guided meditation anyways. So I thought, well, I gotta get rid of all this stuff. So I just focus on going just deeper. And so I didn't hear the meditation and didn't hear any noise, and I feel more energized now anyways from having that time, but
Your meditation
I might listen
time.
to it if I get more inspired, but I just need to just go away from that. And I haven't had a good meditation while my company was here, so it was a nice opportunity. Just
Great. And just remember, these things are just skillful means and, different ways to help different people. So if it's not your stick, don't worry about it. You don't have to. Sarah, you had something.
Oh, I was just gonna add to what Kusila was saying about the to-do list, because I do the same thing, write it down to get it out of the mind. But this morning, I just chuckled when you said that, because this morning I had a pretty long to-do list on my table, and I lost it. I was great. I'm so happy to like lost it. So I said, okay, I'll redo it, but I'm only putting 2 things on it.
They say 3 is a magic number. Just focus on 3 things for the day. That's it. No pressure.
Yeah.
And call it a ta-da list, not a to-do list.
Oh, ta-da.
Instead of something positive versus negative.
Yeah.
That was a great meditation. I think it's the first time in my entire life that I can light up all of my chakras. Yeah, that was very helpful. That was very good.
I laughed when you started playing it, because in 2019 I drove to Arrow River, and the first evening I got there, I was sitting in their little rundown meditation hall, and the wind was coming through the cracks in the floor, and I was a bit stunned, like, where am I? And Ajahn Thiradhammo, that is the Dhamma talk.
That's the Dhamma talk he gave. You heard it live.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time I was like, what the? I hadn't really learned about the devas, and I was kind of exiting like the chakra yoga world. And so I remember being really a bit disoriented when I heard that Dhamma talk. But now to hear it again, that was a few years ago. So it was neat to listen to it again and understand it in a different way.
Yeah.
So,
But I just really appreciate Ajahn Thiradhammo. He's has such an ability to integrate things, and like he's very brilliant that way. Yeah.
and he has a sincere connection with the devas, which I haven't met many people like that. So that's interesting.
Can you repeat what you said? There's a sincere connection with the devas.
Angels.
Yeah, the devas are Buddhist deities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's the Pali word for, in Christianity, they call them angels, and in Buddhism, they call them devas, or devas.
I've been investigating the goddess aspects of all the, because they're sort of very sort of masculine in the first. I've been sort of reading, and so I've been really interested in sort of understanding the devas, but through the goddess realm. It's been really quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Did you read that book? That's an old one now, Goddesses in Every Woman.
Oh, I'm reading one called Shanti.
Okay, yeah.
Shakti. Yeah.
No. It's a different book that I
Yeah.
used to use in my psychiatry
Mhm.
world.
Maybe you still have it.
I think it got given away.
Yeah.
Paula.
Yeah, just one other thing maybe to throw out there. Encountering recently some information about gratitude practice, because it's become very popular technique that you see a lot, and usually it's make a list of the things you're grateful for. But apparently when they do some of the research on what's actually uplifting the mind, so looking at people's mental states and what, I can't remember all the details, but bottom line is, quote, effective gratitude practice is much more bringing to mind the good deeds of others, the goodness in the world, which is very much those recollections of generosity and morality, but not just within ourselves, within other people. Sometimes it's easier to see it around you and to bring those things to mind, to uplift the mind. And this is very linked to mudita practice, which we rarely talk about as well, but one of the Brahma Viharas, the happiness for the happiness of others, and especially happiness for the beauty of beautiful character. Yeah. So anyway, just interesting to note that even you and the scientists are telling us that's more effective than just listing the things you should be grateful for, which has a slightly Christian overtone of you should be grateful. And it can put a burden on the mind potentially.
Yeah, well, as I was mentioning, that's where my mind goes to when I do the Buddha Anusati, the recollection of the Buddha, is the gratitude that, of all the struggles he went through to figure things out, so we don't have to repeat those struggles. He sort of gives us the end product. Yeah, and I just feel such gratitude for that. Yeah, it just sort of happens naturally as I try and do the Buddha Anusati. Okay, so that's the first Friday in May, so we'll end with the Brahma Vihara of Metta, loving kindness. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be loving. May you feel ease. May you be safe. May no problems come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May no harm come to you. May you meet with spiritual success. May you have the patience, the courage, the strength, the determination, the inner clarity and the wisdom to meet and overcome the inevitable problems in life, to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties in life, to meet and overcome the inevitable frustrations in life, and to meet and overcome the inevitable failures in life. May the whole of our hearts be filled with loving friendliness. May every cell of our bodies be filled with loving friendliness. May every level of our consciousness be purified by loving friendliness. May we build a healthy, happy aura of loving friendliness all around us, through which no evil thought, word, or intention, or any form of harm may penetrate, but from which loving friendliness may radiate in all directions. And may we be protected. May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Lise, Blair, Lynn, Perez, Russell, and may all beings be well and happy. Thank you, everyone.